Oh, the both of you are so dramatic. Everything's just fine, especially now because Greg Cosell of NFL Films is here. Talk a little draft with the main man. Of course, you can hang out with, well, Lucas is going to be out of town, right? You're going to be out of town for the install?
Unfortunately.
Oh, did you turn his microphone off?
Yeah, I was recording something in the break. Unfortunately,
that's why.
I will not be in attendance at the install live. I'm going to have
timeout.
Massive FOMO.
So Greg Cosell will be, of course, here on Friday, May the 2nd with Titans head coach Brian Callahan. Bert and I will be a part of the show. Of course, 250 of you guys will be in attendance. There are still the opportunity to get just a few of those tickets remaining at 1045thezone.com. Greg, buddy, how we living? Happy draft day.
It's draft day, Buck. I can't believe it. I'm still watching tape. You know, there's always tape to watch. I'm still doing it.
You sound exhausted.
Surely you've run out of tape, Greg.
Greg was just like, oh, you know.
Plus, I was, at the gym at 10 or 5 this morning. So,
Gotta get a draft day pumping.
Trying to stay awake for the draft.
No, I hear you. It's a long night. Don't worry, buddy. I'll Uber eat you some ginger ale and we'll get you through draft night together.
Yeah, okay. It's a long night. It's a long night.
There's no question. Well, for us, Greg, mercifully, it should be a short night because the Titans do have the number 1 overall draft pick, and Cam Ward is the expectation. Of course, we will break him down at great length at the install live. But I do want to start with an addition that the Titans made late last night. Tyler Lockett is going to join this wide receiver core that is in desperate need of depth and frontline starters. And I know he's not at the peak of his powers anymore, but I wonder what you make of that addition to this kind of an offense.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea for the simple reason he's a veteran. He's certainly not the same player he was, 3, 4, 5 years ago. I don't think he has quite the vertical juice that he had back then, but a veteran, a savvy player, a smart player. You always hear, Buck, you've had these conversations with coaches. Each coach, position coach, talks about the room. We want our room to be good. So this is a really good addition to the wide receiver room, getting a veteran receiver who understands the league, understands what it takes. We don't know what else they'll do in the draft, that wide receiver. Obviously, they still have Calvin Ridley, who I think even despite the quarterback issues a year ago, did manage to get over 1,000 yards. He's a really good receiver. So, it's a step in the right direction. I don't want fans to think Lockett's going to go, 100 for 1,500 yards. That's not going to happen.
Sure.
But he's a savvy, smart player, and it's just a good move.
Well, and that's, I saw some criticisms just late last night, as there's always criticisms on Twitter, Greg, as you know.
Always. Always. You have to.
Everybody's a talent about, no, I don't know if you have to, but people do anyway. Talking about his lack of, how should I put this? The fact that he doesn't get a ton of yards after the catch because he is very much a self-preservation type of player, and he is quick to go down, but not before, Greg. He has found the openings in zone coverage for him to be able to sit down, get whatever yardage he needs, whether that's to convert a third down or to keep the chains moving and not have to play on third down. To your point, he uses that wherewithal to both preserve himself for a full 17 games, as he did last year in an advanced age, and also take advantage of what the defense is presenting him.
Yeah, you make a really good point about the zone element. He's very good at finding voids, settling in voids, giving the quarterback a place to throw the football, a clean throw, something that will be important with a rookie quarterback, obviously. So, yes, he's not a run after catch guy unless he catches the ball on the move. But if he catches it, let's say, in the middle of his zone, he's pretty much going to go down. Fans should understand that. He's not going to turn and run. He's not a big guy. He's later in his career, but he'll get the necessary yards, and then he goes down. That's what he's done the last 2-3 years, and I'm sure he'll continue to do that.
Greg Cosell of NFL Films is here with us on 104.5 The Zone. He'll be with us in person in 8 days from now when Greg flies in, when Titans head coach Brian Callahan joins us for a live taping of the install at the Hutton Hotel in the Analog Room. Tickets available still at 1045thezone.com.
Greg, when you look at Tyler Lockett's production or the steps back in production he's taken in each of the last 2 years, really, from being a perennial 1,000-yard receiver in the NFL, is it simply just aging further into his career? Is there anything specific that you see Tyler Lockett, because availability is not the issue. He's played in just about every game in those seasons. Is there anything you see markedly different in the Tyler Lockett of today versus the Tyler Lockett of even 2022, understanding he's obviously well into his 30s by now?
Yeah, I think, Lucas, the vertical element's not there anymore. I mean, he was a vertical receiver. I can remember seeing, deep posts with Russell Wilson that they designed specifically for him, and he'd get on top of the defense and score touchdowns on plays like that. You obviously haven't seen that in the last couple of years. It's probably a function of just getting older, losing a step. Obviously, they've added to their receiver core. They drafted Smith Najigba. He became basically the number one receiver last year, which is probably one reason they traded Metcalf as well. So I think it's just a function of age. As I said, he's not going to be the same receiver. Fans should not expect him to be that guy. That's not who he is at this point in his career. So the vertical dimension is not going to be there. I don't think he was signed for that. I think the Titans knew very well exactly what they were signing. They were signing a veteran receiver who was going to get first downs. It's going to be a factor on third down. Every team needs a receiver that when it's 3rd and 7, he gets 9. And that may not look great on the stat sheet when you look at a guy's receptions versus yards per catch, but those are really, really important plays in games. And that's what Tyler Lockett is at this point in his career.
Pivoting a little bit, Greg, to this offensive line class with the draft starting tonight, it feels like at this point, and I know you're not toiling in the mock drafts this time of year, but it feels like Will Campbell, the offensive tackle out of LSU to New England, is about as locked in as Cam Ward to the Titans at this point. For you, is it that much of a consensus that Will Campbell is above and beyond the best offensive lineman in this draft class?
Well, Lucas, I'm going to answer it this way. And people can decide how they want to feel about this, because I've talked to coaches about this as well, because I'm not an offensive line guru and I don't pretend to be. I study them. I know offensive line coaches who tell me I know a little more than I think I know, but I would say I'm not super comfortable at times when I evaluate O-linemen, even though I do a ton of it. There's 64 starting offensive linemen in the NFL. Obviously 32 teams. Each one has 2 offensive tackles. I meant offensive tackles, not offensive linemen. So there's 64 starting offensive tackles. Take this for what you will. Only 4 of them have arm lengths of less than 33 inches. Only 4. Will Campbell, his arm length is less than 33 inches. Now, I've spoken to O-line coaches who say he's not a tackle. I'm not playing him at tackle. He says he's an exception, and I'm not going to base my career, my livelihood on an exception. But I believe that the Patriots see him as a tackle, and we'll see how that plays out. In fact, I had one O-line coach tell me that he's an exact replica of Skoronski, who obviously played left tackle for 3 years in the Big Ten, and no one saw him as a left tackle in the NFL. But it's interesting that a lot of people see Campbell as a left tackle in the NFL. I guess we'll find out. If you want to see a game where the arm length was a factor, and this is an SEC game and you're in SEC country, people should take a look at the Arkansas game when he had a number of bad reps against Landon Jackson. So we'll see how it plays out. He's a good football player. That's inarguable. But we'll see how that plays out.
Greg Cosell here with us on 104.5 The Zone. We're doing a little install live before the actual install live on Friday, May the 2nd. If you are live streaming the show and watching Greg with us on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, or Facebook Live, the link for the tickets is also available in the live stream chat. Get yours today before they draft this damn quarterback, because then they are going to be gone. Greg, pivoting from offensive line discussion to a position that you and I haven't previewed quite yet. It's not necessarily a position of need for the Titans, but it is an interesting group. Off-ball linebackers, how do you kind of view the position? I guess I should ask it to you this way. How do teams view the position where I feel like it's been kind of categorized as a non-premium position at this point in time? But especially with the level of coverage abilities that some of these guys bring to the table, you have to have a good off-ball linebacker to be able to operate your defense efficiently.
Yeah, every position's not a premium position, Buck, until you don't have a guy. Yeah. And then it becomes a premium position. It's funny how that works. Just look at what Zach Bond did for the Eagles last year, and he got a big deal, but then he was a critical piece of that defense. It's funny, you talk about off-ball linebackers. The way that the game has evolved, and it's really a function of the college game and probably even the high school game and the way kids are brought up who end up playing off-ball linebacker, is it seemingly has become a position of athleticism and movement and range, as opposed to the physicality that we used to talk about, and which some of us still do. I'm sure you've talked to Coach Mack about this numerous times, the concept of stack and shed, where you actually take on blocks of climbing offensive linemen, use your arms, extend your arms, keep your feet clean, play off, displace the blocker, and then make a tackle. You don't see many of those guys anymore. And there's linebackers in this draft that are thought of very highly. Jihad Campbell, Carson Swessinger from UCLA, who are obviously good prospects and could well be drafted, in the top 40 or top 50. And they're not really physical power players. They're athletes. And then there's someone like Demetrius Knight from South Carolina, another SEC player who is that guy, a very physical kind of old school linebacker, but he does have very good range and speed. It's a player I particularly like, and I'm anxious to see where he gets drafted. But for the most part, the position has somewhat changed. It'll be interesting coming off last season where there were 6 running backs with over 300 carries, and it's only a one-season snapshot, but to see if the running game comes a little bit back in vogue in the NFL, and if that makes people rethink what those stack backers need to be able to do in order to play well.
Greg, we appreciate you hanging out here with us live. We're looking forward to seeing you in town next Friday. Well, I guess you'll get in next Thursday, right? Give yourself a little time to get ready.
I got to do that because you never know with the airlines, Buck. I don't want to they cancel a flight or whatever, and then I'm not there, and that wouldn't be a good thing,
No, God knows Brian Callahan would be pissed if he had to sit up there on the stage with just me and not you.
Well, so. Robert would fill in.
God. Yeah.
Well, buddy, safe travels next week. Enjoy the draft. Don't stay up too late, Greg. I know you're gonna.
Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to. So I might not be at the gym at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning.
That's okay. No days off for Cosell, especially even when the draft is going on. The tape grind continues. And Greg, actually, before you go, the thing that I'm really excited to provide to the audience at the Install Live this year, Friday, May the 2nd, Greg, Brian Callahan, me, and a bunch of other people from the zone, 250 of you guys in the house in the analog room at the Hutton Hotel. We're going to have your draft evaluations printed out at everybody's table so they can follow along with the tape breakdowns that you and Callahan are doing on that night. And I guess, just kind of an overview of what you include on those draft evaluations so people can look forward to seeing them, to following along with that tape study. And, I mean, hell, if you want to take them home, you can.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, that'll be great.
Well, buddy, we appreciate you spending some time, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
All right, Buck, look forward to it. Thanks.
That's Greg Cosell of NFL Films hanging out with us on 104.5 The Zone. And in fact, Greg has done his first draft guide for the 33rd team this year. So if you want to get a little taste of what those evaluations look like before we give you the full thing on the full Titans draft class, you can have those as well. What you got?